Hi, I'm Jonathan, and today on Hanging Out with the Guides, we have Tina Paymaster. Tina, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Tina is a health and lifestyle coach and recipe developer. She works with her clients to release the self-sabotaging beliefs and behaviors that have been keeping them from experiencing the health and happiness they desire. Her mission is to help others discover and unleash the true power, confidence, and beauty within themselves so they can stop settling and start living. Her approach blends nutrition, energy healing, spirituality, and psychological principles to create a complete mind, body, soul transformation. You can learn more about Tina and her services at tinapaymaster.com. So, Tina, tell me about who you are and what you believe your role is in this life. When you leave this world, what impact do you want to have left?
So it's interesting because a lot of people get asked this question, right? Who are you? And one thing I realized is that most of us jump to talking about what we do for work. And so I'm kind of a chronic rule breaker, and I try to as much as I can because I think rules are meant to be broken. So I'd love to share about what I do, but I guess let's start more with really who am I, which is not defined by one thing. So I won't tell you my life story at the moment, but I am a daughter to two amazing parents. I am a sister to two amazing sisters, and someone that is now, although I wasn't in the past, extremely grateful for my past. And I've worked a hell of a lot not to define myself by it. And I know that's something that a lot of people struggle with. We get so caught up in the decisions that we've made in the past, and we think that we're trapped by it. And it's a common thing. It's something that I struggled with for years, and I've worked a really hard time to get past that. I overcame years of self-confidence struggles, depression, digestive issues. I went on an incredible self-healing, self-growth, and self-awareness journey, and that has really brought so much love, light, and joy into my life, more than I could have ever imagined, because I just did not think that that was something that was possible for me. And it's a journey that I'll continue to be on. I don't feel like we're ever done fully exploring who we are. Our depth is so much deeper than we know. And every day definitely brings its share of challenges and surprises, but also incredible experiences. And it's really been through this journey that I've discovered my purpose in life, a question that you asked, and that is helping others release themselves from the limiting behaviors, limiting beliefs that are holding them back from creating the health and the happiness that they really desire. I want people to get excited about their dreams, and just not just to get excited about the dreams, but also to gain confidence that they can actually create them. So I guess, that being said, you gave me the formal introduction, but I would say that's really who I am. As someone that's gone through the journey, that's continuing to go through the journey, and just wants to share my story and experiences with other people out there, and just let others know that it's not going to be perfect. It doesn't have to, and that's not what we should be striving for. Just really fully experience everything. And I'm sure we'll get more into the talk. I don't want to give too much away in this first intro, so I'll kind of let you get into some of the other questions you want to ask me.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously you've touched upon some of the later questions here. Speaking of the past, and obviously having concluded this about your purpose, how did you get to where you are today? Tell me some of the key parts of your story that might allow people, wherever they are in their own paths, to relate to you and the path you traveled to where you are now.
Okay, so where do I begin? For as long as I can remember, I really did, like I mentioned, I struggled with feeling worthy, with feeling loved, and with feeling attractive. I did. I was never the popular girl in school. I never got asked out by any guys. I didn't have my first boyfriend until senior year. And for some people, they may say, well, that's still pretty early. But no one was really, I just kind of accepted that I wouldn't really have one. And one when I did start dating, I would say one after the other since then, any relationship that I was in really just became extremely emotionally turbulent, to say the least. I always felt like I was trying so hard to get love and to feel loved. And no matter what I did, it never felt like things were moving smoothly. Sometimes I convinced myself that they were, but it never really truly felt like they were. It always felt like a struggle. And it was almost as if I was trying to hold on for dear life rather than experience life, you know? And it got to the point where I literally, I mean, I remember this multiple times. I literally convinced myself that if I wanted to feel any ounce of happiness, that I should just accept my fate, or settle for what I had, because anything more was just far out of my reach. And it's sad to think that we say that to ourselves, almost to protect ourselves, when it's not really protecting ourselves. And then in my last relationship, which ended about 2.5 years ago, I would say everything that I was going through, because I had gone through depression as well, everything kind of culminated in this last relationship. And without going into too much of the details, because we could be here for, you know, much longer than I'm sure we plan on, but I basically had this awakening one morning. In which I was so just uncomfortable in my body and what I was experiencing. I had no control over my emotions at this point. And I say that what I heard and what I felt was my spirit, finally. It was my intuition. People refer to it as many different things. That's the voice in your head, whatever it may be. And this voice in my head, when I literally wanted to give up, I did. I mean, I had thoughts, so many days, more than I can remember, of just, well, why am I even here? Should I even be here? And I remember this voice kind of in my head, my spirit, my intuition, telling me that something, things could change and something could be different, but I had to do something different. And that different thing was stop looking outside of myself for all the answers. Stop looking to people to change. Stop looking for things to come to me. Stop looking for my circumstances to change. And it was in that moment I knew something, and I can't say what happened. It came to me. I knew that I had to sign up. I was eyeing these Buddhist meditation classes for a while, and it was Buddhism because I read about it a few years prior to that, and I really resonated with a lot of the philosophy. And for some reason, I'd been like, oh yeah, I'll go eventually. And then in that moment that I woke up, I knew that's where I had to be. And I can't say enough how much that experience changed my life. It was the beginning of this incredible transformation. I really did learn how to take responsibility for my health and happiness, accept myself. I have compassion towards myself now. I was able to forgive myself. One of the most healing things you can do is forgive yourself. And I gradually, because I never want anybody to think that anything happens overnight, because it doesn't, but I gradually grew a sense of inner peace and fulfillment that I truly, truly never felt before. And because of that, my confidence grew, my health improved. I didn't worry so much anymore about what other people thought of me. Started to break the rules, right? Create my own path in life instead of going down the one I thought I had to. And above all, I realized that my true self wasn't this sad, unworthy, undeserving, depressed girl that I always thought I was, but an empowered, strong, deserving, and capable woman. And like I said, this didn't happen overnight. It took work, and every day I work on all of that. You know, it's a constant process, as I'm sure you know. It's something that we have to continue to maintain. You know, it's interesting because my whole life I believed in luck, good luck, bad luck, but I really don't anymore. I honestly don't. And I actually never even use those words unless I'm talking about that I don't believe in it anymore. But what I truly do believe in now is the power of intention and the power of our spirit and of our resilience. I do. We can truly achieve what we desire if we just have the faith, and I'm sure we'll get into this, that the universe is looking out for us, that in every challenge there's an opportunity, and that the process, not the outcome, is where the magic really happens. these things, you know, that really challenge our entire belief systems is actually what's going to really save us in the end from suffering and more pain.
There's so many things that you touched upon that I'd like to either ask or comment on. First of all, the Buddhism classes, were you primarily meditating, or was it primarily teaching, or what were you getting from that?
Let me clarify. No, it was meditation plus teaching. And I do believe that it's important to have both, because meditation is great because it allows you to connect with your true self, that inner wisdom inside, allows you to, over time, clear the noise that is actually creating a lot of our suffering. But I think it's important to also understand why we suffer, and you're not always going to get that clarity from meditation. So anyone that's, I actually recommend for anyone that is interested in meditation to reduce their pain, their suffering, any sort of negativity, to do the practice. Don't wait to go to a class. Definitely do it because it'll benefit you no matter what. But I do recommend going to some sort of class. Now, I don't take Buddhist meditation classes anymore. I do Vedic meditation. But also when I went to Vedic meditation classes, it wasn't just a meditation. There was teaching as well. Because we need to understand why we're suffering so we can understand that there's a way out of it.
And to know that what we're doing when we're meditating is the way out of it. Otherwise, we don't keep up the meditation practice. It's to be able to be reminded of why we're doing it, to understand why we're doing it is what makes it effective.
And things are going to come up while you're meditating. If you don't understand what those emotions are and those feelings are, they could scare you. They're things that you may not have experienced. And it's nothing that should be scary, but it's something foreign to us when we haven't done it. And so I think it's always important. Plus, you start to meet like-minded people, and I think community and support is so important.
Yeah, definitely. There's, also obviously in understanding, even just whenever we go into anything, then it gets back to what you were describing, the power of intention, obviously, rather than luck, that it's intention, that if you go into meditation with an intention, then you're going to be much more effective. It's going to be much more effective. It's going to be, actually helpful to you. If you go in without a clear intention, then you end up less focused and you don't really know what you're doing. And it's, again, it's harder to keep up the practice, but it's, you get less out of it because your intention wasn't clear. And even just understanding why you're doing something is sort of an implicit intention that you're going in knowing, oh, I know why I'm suffering, and this is actually going to help me because of X, Y, and Z. And so doing this is actually the path to get to where I want to go, and where I want to go is freedom from suffering. If you're already going in with that intention when you understand what you're doing, and so then the intention can carry you through. There's focus, there's more presence, and then you're able to actually have it be effective.
Yeah, and let me add to that, because I 100% go in with an intention, but to add to that, go in with intention, but without expectation. The one thing that one of the things that I love about meditation, and I mentioned this previously, is that it's time for us to stop being so results oriented all the time, and to really understand that the result is just a side effect of the process. If you are willing to go through the process, embrace it, the ups and the downs, you will get to the result. And the one thing I love about meditation, granted, you might do it the first time and be like, wow, I feel so calm, but the really sustainable, long-lasting changes come from continuously doing it. That is why, these Zen Buddhist monks, it's not like they've done it for 25 years and they can stop doing it. They continue to do it. They're devoted to the practice. And it just, when you can embrace the process, that in and of itself is going to help you reduce stress, because you're not going to constantly be measuring yourself, your sense of worthiness, your success or failure on if you reach the result. Was that clear? Did that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I always find it interesting, even though, it's obviously a fixture, but it's always amazes me anyway, that we encounter people at exactly the right times. And, you and I had planned this interview for a week ago originally, and you had asked if I wanted to do it the Friday before that. And ultimately we ended up doing it now.
Yeah.
And obviously I understand now why we're doing it now. That idea that it's not about the result. I mean, obviously, you know, we can know things intellectually, but life presents us all sorts of experiences so that we really understand and can incorporate the lessons. That it's not about the result, it's about the process. And ultimately we want to value every part of the process. And when we're only valuing the result, then until we get to the result, we're not where we want to be. So we're forever where we don't want to be until that like moment when we're in the result. And then we're back into another process on the way to another result. And so it's like forever we're climbing, but the climbing isn't enjoyable. And it's only when we reach the top of the mountain that we'll be, most of life is climbing. And it's not so enjoyable if we're not actually living in the process and recognizing, like you said, that it's all about maintaining what is. I mean, ultimately we sleep. It's not like you sleep one day and you don't need to sleep forever again. You don't just eat, you know, once and then like you're done. You know, we don't just shower once and then, all right, I'm good for life. You know, it's a regular maintenance process. And obviously it's the same thing with any part of us, with maintaining presence of mind and, clear and positive emotions and so forth. To be able to create the experience we want, it requires that continued, maintenance, which means living in that process, like you're describing, and not being so results oriented. And I like all the words that you tied into that. So obviously you can see sort of the living in the results. There's expectation. There's what was the other word you used? Because there's intention. Oh, luck. So there's expectation, there's luck, and then, but when you're living in the process, then there's intention, and it's not luck anymore, it's intention. It's not expectation anymore, it's intention. So now we're going in because we know where we're headed, but we can just enjoy the journey there instead of not being happy until we get there. And so it's good lessons there. I like the way you presented the information. It was great. Going forward with that, obviously with all of these important lessons, I'd like to hear more of those. So what are some of the most important lessons you've learned on your journey, and who have been some of your greatest teachers?
Okay, so one of the most important lessons that I've learned is, God, there's so many. So one that I often say, and this is like, for some reason, this is one of the first ones that I remember in my Buddhism class, was, it's not what happens to you, it's how you react to it. And that really, really, really transformed my life. Now, we may have heard it a lot. I certainly do hear it a lot. And it's one of these things that, sorry, I seem to have lost. Oh, there you are. Okay. It's one of these things that I think it was Brian Johnson. I don't know if you follow him. He's created Philosopher Notes. They're fantastic. And he created this equation that we often think it's event, which equals outcome, right? Something happens to us and therefore we feel a certain way. But it's actually event plus our response that equals the outcome. And when I heard this, because I often thought, oh, all these well, like shitty things are happening to me, and that's why it feels like crap. And so you lose all control, right? Because you can't control everything that happens outside of you. And so when I heard this lesson, it's not what happens to you, it's how you react to it. A kind of light bulb went off in my head. But I'm also someone that hears something and I don't automatically believe it. I had to go prove it for myself. And so I did. I started, as much as when I could remember it, I started to experiment with this. When I would become aware of when a negative emotion was, when I was starting to feel angry or sad, and then instead of my usual response, I would experiment with a more positive response. And stuff changed. I started feeling happier. I started feeling less stressed. I started feeling in control despite the things that were happening in my life. And I see that even now. And, like I said, I do that now. I literally do that as much as I can every single day. And I think that is so important because we also have to start owning up. We really do. We have to start taking responsibility for how we react. We cannot blame others anymore for how we react. It is a choice. And I'm not saying that we can never be angry. I mean, I have my moments. I'm angry. I'm sad. I'm not always happy. But I own it. You know, I can recognize when I'm responding a way that's making me feel a certain way. So if somebody, you know, shoves you, I mean, I live here in New York City. If somebody walks, you know, you get shoved in the street all the time and people just keep walking. They don't even probably realize it. Maybe they do, who knows. You can get really pissed off, or you can just be like, whatever, and keep going about your day. I guarantee you that if you react in a more positive way, you're not going to feel angry. You're just not. The thing about anger is, angry reactions, is that it's not really hurting the other person. It's hurting you. So anyways, a long explanation of that, but it's not what happens to you. It's how you react to it. And then another one is the whole idea of opportunities and challenges. Opportunities and lessons within our challenges. This is something, another one that I literally repeat to myself every single day, because whether big or small, you're going to have a challenge every single day. And don't drive yourself nuts to try to figure out what these opportunities are, but understand that everything is happening for you, not to you. So if something negative happens, we can dwell in it, or we can ask ourselves, what could be a potential opportunity here? You know, things didn't work out as planned, but what could be a potential opportunity here? Or is there a lesson here that I'm supposed to learn? Or one of my favorite ones is simply just, is there another way that I can look at this? And you will unlock so many opportunities and gifts and just miracles if you can practice this. So I would say those are the two that are coming to mind right now. I'm sure I can go on for longer. I'm sure more will come to mind, but.
Yeah, no, those are very important lessons. I think you pretty much boiled it down there. What you were saying at the beginning, it reminds me obviously of the Buddhist saying that when you hold a hot rock with the intention of throwing it at someone else, then you're the one who gets burned. Yeah. Yeah. So so yes, that's how you respond to things, and that obviously our responses are affecting us almost more than the other person. So it seems kind of silly to react with a negative emotion if that's going to impact us more negatively than the other person, because who are we trying to hurt exactly? What's the purpose? Yeah. And those are and obviously, like you were saying, seeing the opportunities in the challenges. It's interesting how we can get lost in life's what we call issues or problems, and like think of them as issues or problems or struggles, when if we were just to redefine them and think of them as challenges to grow, or, you know, opportunities to you know, improve our experience. You know, things are being presented to us, and it's up to us what we choose to welcome into our experience. You know, like the Buddha said that we should guard our sense doors. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to focus on the things that we're not wanting, where we're welcoming that into our experience further, when we could alternatively be welcoming in all the experiences we want. So even in the way that we're thinking about the experiences we're having, whether they're struggles or they're opportunities for growth, you know, it's such a different way of looking at it, and it obviously changes your entire way of responding. And like you said, it's what happens plus the response that leads to the result. So we might as well change the response in the equation.
And the other thing is that, I lost my train of thought here as you were saying something. Wow, it totally just left me. I'm sure it'll come back to me. So I'll just let you continue going. I just totally spaced out.
Was it related to challenges, obstacles, these opportunities?
The other thing, when it's not that our goal is not to be fearless. Our goal is not to have no challenges, because that is not practical. That is not realistic. We will always have those things. It's how we choose to respond to them. And the thing is, when you can, you know, through certain things, going to certain classes, learning to become more aware through teachers, through books, whatever it may be, expanding your awareness, you will learn to respond to your challenges more beneficially, which is going to reduce your stress, increase your happiness. And when you do have certain challenges, you may get knocked down, but you're going to end up getting up much quicker. And so the other thing is, you know, challenges, some people call them failures as well, right? I think we need to start kind of redefine, like looking at challenges as if you were never challenged, you wouldn't have pushed yourself, right? You wouldn't have come out of your comfort zone. And our comfort zone, I will say the comfort zone is never really comfortable, because I think deep down inside when we're in it, we always feel like we could be happier or be experiencing something so much more. So anything that pushes you out of your comfort zone is a blessing, so embrace it. Because had you not been challenged, you wouldn't have realized your full potential.
Definitely. It's often said, obviously, by many people who are successful, that it's only because of their failures that they succeeded. You know, Edison, I think it was, he said that, you know, that he supposedly faced like tens of thousands of failures when he was trying to invent the light bulb. Like tens of thousands of things didn't work. And he said, and people, you know, someone asked him, you know, how did you get through tens of years and keep going? And he said, I didn't fail tens of thousands of times. I just learned tens of thousands of times what didn't work.
Yeah.
And so I learned tens of thousands of things that didn't work. And then I knew what not to do again and what I could do. And then I had an opportunity to try something different. And so it's really a matter of recognizing that when things aren't working, we can try something different, and we have the opportunity to expand beyond our comfort zone and try something we haven't tried before, because what we've been trying obviously hasn't been getting us the results that we want. So we'll try something else. And if we hadn't really faced like, okay, this really isn't working, then we would never think to say, okay, I'm willing to try something completely different that I've never tried before. Because why would we try something that's out of our comfort zone if what we're doing seems to be working? You know, so it gives us the opportunity. It's like life is saying, all right, you're not actualizing everything you could be.
Yeah.
You're not really experiencing what you could be here. All right, we just gotta like push you along a little bit, because otherwise you're gonna stay here, and there's so much more on the other side. Just go a little further, and then it shoves us along. Things start to fall apart, and it gives us the opportunity to put them back together in a different way.
Yeah, and I think I love that you said that things start to fall apart, because I think there's always this constant process of creation and destruction. Always. I was just having this conversation with one of my girlfriends the other day, is that things are going to be broken down, but when they're broken down, there's an opportunity to rebuild. And so just always know that there's, I went to, I don't know if you're familiar with Maston Kip, but he put it this way that I love, is that always on the other side of breakthrough is always on the other side of crisis. And I just love that, because it almost makes you embrace crisis, or at least not freak out so much when there is a crisis, understanding that, you know, it is happening for a reason. And if you don't want to suffer, stop fighting the crisis and start asking yourself, what could that reason be? And how can I approach this crisis better than I may have in the past? So, yeah.
Definitely, yeah. I've increasingly learned that when things are going terribly, when like I'm like experiencing crisis, like the way that you're describing, then it means I'm on the verge of a major breakthrough, and that things are going to be amazing. I'm going to be looking back like, wow, I'm so glad that happened. So it changes your entire perspective going through crisis, when you're like, wow, I'm so excited, there's a crisis happening. This means that I'm on the verge of another breakthrough. Life is going to be amazing, like, you know, any moment now. So thank goodness for this terrible experience, you know? And then like, obviously, even when you're in the midst of that terrible experience, feeling that, then it doesn't seem so terrible anymore.
Yeah, and this is actually interesting, because I understand people might be saying, well, I've had a crisis and that's just not how I'm going to respond. And I totally get it, because depending upon the severity and where you might be mentally, you might not be able to respond that way. But I forget the name of the book, but there was a guy that was talking about failures. And he said, or any sort of challenges, how to respond. Well, if you can't get to the point where you're excited about it, then literally do something he called just do the next best thing, or the next right thing. I think I said the next best thing. So if you're in this funk, if you're in this crisis moment, then don't overwhelm yourself by trying to think of this huge thing that you have to do to change everything. Just literally ask yourself in that moment, what is the next best thing I can do right now? Maybe that's taking a walk. Maybe it's taking a bath. Maybe it's calling a friend. And then when you do that, ask yourself again, what is the next best thing I can do right now? And keep doing it until you finally get yourself out of that negative state. So just a simple little tip, but I loved that, because it shows you that you don't have to think and solve everything all at once. Just be willing to take baby steps to get out of there.
Definitely. That's life. It's baby steps. It's when we think of them as, when we look at the mountain of life and we think, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to climb that. That's when we're stressed out. It's when we're able to say, no, I don't have to climb that mountain. I just need to take one step.
Yeah.
And then I'll take another step, and I'll take another step. And if I just keep taking steps, eventually I'll be at the top of the mountain, and that's manageable. So
Yeah.
that's you know, that's the way we ought to look at things, and it'd be much more enjoyable, obviously.
Absolutely.
And manageable. So who have been some of your greatest teachers in all this? How did you learn these lessons?
So some of my greatest teachers, so definitely my teacher at my Buddhist meditation school. I read a lot, and I actually feel like some of my greatest teachers have been through the books that I've read. Don Miguel Ruiz is, I don't know if you're familiar with his books, a lot of people are now. One of the first types of self-growth, self-healing books that if none of you know who I'm talking about, I'm going to tell you that if you want to really start changing the way you interact with people and start understanding why certain people are really negative, why you're negative, this is an amazing book. It's called The Fifth Agreement by Don Miguel Ruiz. All of his books are phenomenal. I just read one of his other ones called The Voice of Knowledge, which is just, my gosh, we need to, like, everybody literally needs to read his books. They're amazing. I'm looking over here because I'm looking at the library that I've slowly collected over the past 5 months. Let's see, who else? Biggest teachers. So he's the biggest one, my Buddhist meditation teacher. My current meditation teacher, her name is Emily Fletcher of Ziva Meditation. She teaches Vedic Meditation, and that's really been helpful. And you know, it's interesting. I obviously follow a lot of other people. I follow Deepak Chopra. I follow, you know, Pema Chodron. I follow Danielle Laporte. I follow a lot of different types of people. But I often think that we need to sometimes, I think we really do need to reach out for wisdom. But one thing that I've learned about teaching, and I had this conversation also the other day, is that our goal is not to follow what other people say. Our goal is to look to other people, to increase our awareness, and then find our own truth. That's why, you know, I have my own meditation altar, and you will be like, what does she follow? Because I have, you know, things from Buddhism, things from Hinduism, things from, you know, God knows what, because I've just created my own thing that helps me believe what I want to believe. So at the end of the day, I believe that we are our greatest teachers. If we're willing to bring awareness to things that we're going through and not just accept them for what they are. Awareness is absolutely the first step that has to happen before you can heal. I truly do believe that. I'm sure I'm missing a bunch of people. I didn't make a list, but I would say those are 2 people I would definitely recommend in terms of my greatest teacher. I'm sitting here looking at my books because I just have, I've been reading so much lately. I'm sure there's somebody that if you're like, what about this person? I'd say, oh yeah, of course. And then I also, like, there's certain emails that I just love to get. Like I mentioned Brian Johnson, he has philosopher notes. He's fantastic because I think he reads more than anybody that I've probably known in my entire life, because it just seems like he does, because he takes all the best tidbits from these inspirational books and he just gives them to you. Oh, I love Mike Dooley too. He has, this is more inspiration. I guess you can call it a teacher, but I just love getting them notes from the universe. You guys have to sign up for it if people haven't. So yeah, I'm all about inspiration. So
yeah, I could tell. It was very obvious that you've been reading a lot lately, because you keep, like, bringing up authors. So
yeah,
it was even before you mentioned that you were reading a lot lately. That was pretty obvious. That's whatever is, like, most recently on our minds. Obviously, it affects what we bring up, and you can see where people's minds have been. So obviously, you mentioned earlier what the purpose in your life is for you. What have you concluded in all of this, with all of everything you've been taking in and the awareness of everyone, all these other people's teachings, and obviously what you've learned from your own experiences? What have you concluded is the purpose of life? Why are we here?
So I'm going to preface this by saying this is my truth, because I don't want to, I don't want people to think that I'm preaching the rule or whatever it may be. But what I've come to believe is that our purpose in life is to find our way back to our true selves. When we were, without getting too deep into it, and it goes beyond that, but when we were born, the only really emotion that we truly experienced was love. And it wasn't until we started learning right from wrong, we started observing the people around us, what they were doing, learned how to live acceptable, unacceptable, that we almost lost who we truly were at our core. And we started living our lives according to the beliefs and the behaviors of those we observed and those around us and what was taught to us. And so I believe we are put on this earth first just because of that path, to find our way back to our true self, because that's where pure, true happiness and love resides. And then to expand that to everybody around us, to expand that feeling of love. So I would say in a nutshell, that's what I believe our true purpose is. And whatever path you take to get there, that's fine. I don't think everybody has to become like I said, a Buddhist monk or, you know, whatever it may be. Whatever path you take to get there, to be more loving towards yourself and then to those around you, fantastic. It doesn't matter. So that's what I would say my answer to that question is.
Obviously, that fits very well with what you were just saying in your previous answer. Where in a sense you said that we're our greatest teachers, and obviously that when we get in touch with ourselves, then we have all the answers in our experiences and our processing of our experiences, and you know, looking to teachers outside us merely gives us more tools to help us interpret our experiences and understand you know, options that we have available to us to decide what is our truth, and then we can see what resonates with us. Is this teaching resonating with me right now? Is this person's teaching resonating with me more? And then, you know, seeing how that all comes together in our own experience, in our own awareness. So obviously this purpose fits perfectly with that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, like you were saying, like I said, create your own rules. Like there's things that I believe and I don't believe when it comes to Buddhism. There's things that I believe and I don't believe when it comes to Hinduism. I do not consider myself religious. I consider myself spiritual. And I think, you know, at our essence, I think what it means to be spiritual is to connect to your spirit. And whatever process you take to help you do that, fantastic, you know?
Definitely. That was a really good transition into the next question, because you're mentioning religious versus spiritual. So tell me about God. Who or what is God, and what is our relation to such a source or being, or however you think of this? Okay.
So like I said, I'm going to preface this by saying this is my truth, but not what I believe, you know, everybody has to believe. Like I said, I grew up in a Hindu household, and I was always taught, say thank you to God. You know, we had, my mom had the shrine, the altar, and you know, I saw the imagery everywhere, and I loved it. I'm fascinated by religion. I think I love reading about it, but I didn't connect with it. And so, you know, now it was about 5 years ago that I began my spiritual journey, and I started really understanding what, you know, spirituality and religion, which, by the way, not to get too much into it, but I believe all of religion is preaching the same thing. It's misinterpretation that's causing all the war out there. But God, I believe, is a terminology. And I'm not saying God does not exist. I'm saying that is what some people call this higher power. Other people may call it the universe. I say the universe often. People may call it chi. People may call it prana, life force, energy, whatever you may call it. That is your truth, and, you know, live by your truth. What do I believe? I think that was part of your question. What do I believe God is? Was that part of your question?
Well, who or what is God, and what is our relation to such a source or being, or what do you think?
Okay, so let's see if I can articulate this. I believe, so, you know, in this big, vast universe, science has proven this, that it's pretty much all energy. And I believe when it comes to energy, there's creation or destruction. Now, there's one highest, the highest energy that I've come to learn and I believe in is love. And that is creation. That is ultimate creation, love. And so if we think about ourselves as humans or anything we see outside, everything was created from love, because love is what creates. It is fear and whatever you may call it that destroys. So that being said, I believe that our relationship to this higher power is that we're made of the same thing. So I don't pray or idolize anything. I consider myself made of the same thing that everything else is. And I think we really need to understand that. At the same time, why is it a higher power? Because God, or the higher power, is this thing many people also call it, what I believe is universal consciousness, right? And that is basically this, it's the energy that exists, the universal intelligence that exists from all of us. If I'm going off path and not making sense, let me know, because this often happens with me when I get in my head. Universal consciousness is when we all start to become more aware. It's the energy that we all are emitting. And I believe it's a positive energy. So God is actually this huge force, but this huge force that's created by all of us. And we are just a part of it. We're not separate from it. So I believe that's our relation. Did that come out clear?
Yeah, that was okay. Clear. Yeah, that we're all part of what we would call God, whatever, like that higher power, and in the sense that is sort of us. Like we're all that, and it's us in a sense.
And I think that's important, because we have to understand if God, universe, whatever you call this, is the ultimate creator, and we're a part of that, then it makes us recognize that we have the power to create as well. We can't deny that anymore. And so that's kind of what I was getting at.
It's an important message.
Yeah.
So obviously you've sort of touched upon this here, but how does the universe work? What are the most fundamental rules or laws by which everything in the world operates?
I'm just going to hit on two. I was actually, and I'm going to reference somebody again. Are you familiar with Mind Valley at all?
No.
If not, you should definitely follow them. I'm going to totally butcher his name, even though I shouldn't. Vishen Lakshmi is the guy who created it, and he said, I mean, I'm going to kind of mimic what he said, but I truly believe it. There's only really two rules or laws that exist out there. He said, there's only two rules or laws, and everything else is meant to be challenged. And those two rules is a law of attraction and law of physics. And the law of attraction states that like attracts like. What does that mean? When we're talking about energy, it's like energy attracts like energy. So when you're in a positive state and emitting positive energy, you're going to attract more positive to you. If you're in a negative state, emitting negative energy, you're going to attract more negativity towards you. And then there's the obvious law of physics that we all learned, is that if an object is in motion, it will stay in motion until an outside force acts upon it. And if an object is at rest, it will stay at rest until outside forces acted upon it. I don't think it definitely is complicated, the universe. I'm not going to say, listen, I don't have all the answers. I don't know how the universe exactly works. Those are two laws that I loved how he explained that. I don't think anybody really knows exactly how the universe works, right? But I think we know certain truths, and I think it's important, like I said, to become more aware of our power and our place in the universe, and just know that we're a part of it, and that there's more in our control than we think. And so let's embrace that, and let's understand. I mean, the law of attraction, people have heard The Secret, the law of attraction. Start experimenting with it. That's what I did. I was like, I'm not going to believe it. My goal in the beginning was to prove it wrong. And then when it proved me wrong, I was like, okay. So yeah, I think those are the basic laws. And I think, that being said, it's kind of freeing, because a lot of us live these really constricted, restricted lives. These lives according to rules of society and our cultures and our parents. I'm not saying go rebel against everything and everything you know, but if you're not happy, understand that you have a choice, and that you can attract the things that you want because of the law of the universe.
It's a good message. obviously putting the power back in our hands rather than letting the power, it's like what you said earlier, that things don't happen to us, they happen for us.
Yes.
So it's touching upon that again, that we can take the power back into our hands to make choices about what we experience rather than letting the world choose for us, seemingly.
Yeah. And like, I mean, I lived a life of blame. I really did. I blame myself. I blame other people. And I'll be totally transparent. I did. It's what I learned. It's what I saw. It's what, you know, it's what the world teaches us to do. And so now it's like, not to say that the thought will never come in my head, but I'm a lot more aware when I go there and understand that, you know, and it's not about blame. It's not even about blaming ourselves. It's about just taking responsibility and then making a conscious effort to shift into a more positive space that's going to create and not destroy.
Exactly. That was perfectly put. That's exactly what I believe, that it's ultimately, we, you know, first we're inclined to blame others, then we blame ourselves, and then the next step is to just take responsibility. Like, if the power is in our hands to change it, then blame is only going to keep it happening, because we're still focusing on the things that we're blaming for. And so ultimately, alternatively, we can just take responsibility and start making changes, and then there's nothing and no one to blame anymore. So that's the solution, to take responsibility, make changes.
Absolutely.
So with all of these amazing and powerful messages that you've been sharing here, if we were to boil it all down, what do you believe is the most important thing for every person to know? If you could tell every human being on the planet one thing, what would it be?
I'm going to quote somebody, of course. I think it was Buddha that said this, and if it's not, I apologize, because I get my quotes mixed up because I read too many. But that he said, I think, pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. And so let's not judge ourselves for crying, for feeling sad, for feeling angry, for feeling judgmental. Let's not judge ourselves, because that gets you nowhere. Let's just become aware, and let's forgive ourselves and accept ourselves and understand that the point is not to never feel anything bad. Feeling bad, like feeling negative emotions is a wonderful thing. It makes us human. But it's what we choose to do with that. Understand that you do have a choice, and that choice is what's going to create the path that's laid out in front of you. But also know that every day you have an opportunity to change the course that your life is going on. You absolutely do. So don't think that it's ever too late, and understand that there's, you know, no God, no life force on this earth wants to do anything besides increase that power of love, that positive energy, just keep on creating. And so, you know, just never think that that anything's against you. And really understand that the power of your mind, the power of your consciousness, is a power that is going to unlock you from pain and suffering. So,
what you were saying there, pain versus suffering. Obviously, it calls to mind what the Buddha said, that pain is like 2 arrows, or suffering is like 2 arrows. First, there's the arrow that is the actual pain, and then there's the second arrow, which is our reaction to the pain. And so ultimately we can eliminate the second arrow altogether. We don't have to react to the pain. We can just experience it, be present to it, and respond to it. And then obviously, like everything you've been saying, that's where the power is, because we can respond differently, and then that creates a different result. And then we start taking control over our lives rather than having our lives control us, where we're lost in pain and reaction to the pain, where we have suffering, and we don't need the suffering part. We can keep it at the pain part, and then just experience it and learn from it and grow from it, and create different experiences that are ultimately more positive going forward.
it's like it's if you want to feel more love and you want to feel more joy, that understand that it has to start from within you, and that's how you do that. I'm realizing I'm such a quote person right now, but I have to end with this one. That Gandhi said, you know, be the change that you want to see in the world. You want more peace and love in the world, then it has to come from you, because negativity is not going to bring about, you know, fighting is not going to bring the end to war, and negativity and judging people that are negative is not going to bring the end to negativity. So, you know, if that's one thing that I learned, was that if I wanted to experience happiness and love, just the feeling of love, as much as I rolled my eyes and didn't want to believe that it could come from me, because that challenged my entire belief system, I did the work to get there. And I can tell you right now that it does come from within, from personal experience, not just from what theory says, but it does come from within.
And ultimately then, when you create the experience for yourself, you get it outside yourself. Because when you're loving toward yourself, then people are much more likely to be loving toward you, because you end up much more loving toward them when you're loving toward you.
Absolutely, and you have love to give. If you don't have love within yourself, then you truly don't have love to give, because love, it's unconditional. So just to quickly, not to go too deep into this, but when we are thinking that love is going to come from somebody else, we are expecting. Love does not expect. So it's not really that we're giving love. We're giving to get, and love doesn't do that. So if you want to experience love, you have to do the work. You have, and you know, I hate to say work, the process, journey, whatever you want to call it. It's still worth it, but do it to find that within yourself, and you're going to unlock a whole amazing world that you never thought you could before.
And then like you're saying with the Gandhi quote, and you can be part of the solution and not part of the problem, because then you're part of the love rather than part of everything you're reacting to that you're not getting love.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you, Dina, for your time and for sharing your story and lessons with me today. This was great.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. This is wonderful.
I agree. And thank you to all who are watching. Have a great day.